Welcome to commUNITY, a show where we highlight and celebrate the people, the places, and the culture of Western New York, and we also take on the issues head on. I'm Pete Gallivan.
And I'm Claudine Ewing. Western New York is all about resurgence. What was once old is now new, like True Bethel Baptist Church. This used to be the old Twin Fair, a store when I went in as a child, got lost and wondered, where's my mommy?
I'm glad she found you.
I'm glad too.
It's only fitting we're here because the Black Church has always been the cornerstone of the community, and also it has been a driver of this resurgence in Buffalo, and it's also a place where they're training the leaders of tomorrow.
And there are so many young people who are doing so many good things, and we want to highlight them.
Yes, Genesis 12:2.
You will see him here every Sunday and many other days as well.
We're going to sing a song, play games, and get you active. We're going to have fun today, okay? You ready to have fun? Good, good. Okay.
Blake James is a youth pastor here at True Bethel.
When she needs to be tough, she's tough as bricks.
It's a place from which Blake draws inspiration and then channels it in a variety of ways.
What does the church mean to you?
It means so much to me. I've grew up in this church. I've worshiped. I've experienced so many emotional moments. I've been able to connect with God.
He's also been able to give of himself, doing work in audio visuals, as a deacon, even a trustee.
So I've done everything, so this really is truly a home to me.
Now, when we talk about the church, it's not only a place to gather, it's not only a place to pray, but it's also a place where leaders are born. Do you feel that way, that you're being kind of groomed for something bigger?
For sure, definitely.
And that leadership is something he takes beyond the walls of this church.
When you go to school, how do you take the lessons you learn here and the leadership you gain here and transition that to your friends at school, your friends in the neighborhood, that sort of thing?
I really stay focused, maintain the time management, organization, really try to connect and show loving nature to everyone around me.
His confidence and comfort in most surroundings is evident from the moment you meet him, but it wasn't always like that.
Growing up, I really was indoors, really. I really wasn't able to go outside and play with my neighbors or friends. Mostly was protected, knowing it was shootings and violence going on near my area. So I was really focused on staying at home and protected, really.
The church gave him a safety net, a place he could escape the reality of the streets and focus on helping himself to grow and helping others to grow as well.
Well, at first it felt like isolation. I was really by myself and really wasn't able to connect with others. But in here, in this sanctuary, I was really able to connect with God, connect with spiritual people, and experience with youth, and really get to connect with them. So it really opened my mind, opened my horizons to everyone else around me.
I am an addict. There's no such thing as a former addict. I mean, God bless me, I've been clean for 20 years, but you never say that you're a former addict because you can't let this thing think you got the best of it. Thank you, please be seated.
He may not look like an addict, but his past is helping others find a future. Just ahead on commUNITY, meet the Buffalo judge revitalizing how the justice system looks at addiction nationwide.
Welcome back. Well, speaking of changing lives, not far from here grew up City Court Judge Craig T. Hanna.
And with the opioid crisis happening all across Western New York, he has a personal interest, and it's something that may surprise you. Putting on the robe, this is Judge Hanna behind the scenes. And when he walks into his courtroom,
Thank you, please be seated.
there is order in this court, but he's dealing with people with addictions arrested for crimes.
I would be a hypocrite if I didn't try to give you another chance.
This is the nation's first opioid court.
I want them to be a better version of themselves, and it works.
Hundreds have come through opioid intervention court since it started last year.
And we meet with about 100 people every morning. That does sound exhausting, but it's encouraging. Imagine that you're having a positive effect on 100 people every day, as opposed to sending 100 people to jail.
This court acknowledges the drug problem.
Well, our program is very intensive. You have to be here every day. You have to have FaceTime with the judge. Our coordinators follow up with them in the evening. You have an 8 p.m. curfew every night. You have to go to treatment 5 days a week. You have to ping your location so we know where you are on the weekends.
But here, people who would normally be called defendants are referred to as clients, and they get help.
We want our clients in treatment immediate. We need that day-to-day contact to make sure that they're staying clean. But if they do have a hiccup, We like to call it a hiccup, to be positive, that they'll get the help and support that they need so they will not succumb to an overdose.
And outside Buffalo City Court is a mobile unit where people are assessed after leaving Opioid Court, and they get help.
If it had not been for y'all, I don't know where I would be right now.
Then we actually are able to get them prescribed the buprenorphine once they're assessed and deemed appropriate to help them along with their recovery. I can come to the court to comply with his wishes and see treatment in the same day.
The Opioid Court is now becoming a national and state model. That's got to be something you're extremely proud of.
I am. I'm really proud that we've created a program that other people can imitate and take and travel with them, because we're really just trying to help people. I think for years, people were not getting the help that they needed. I think we were just locking up people that were addicted to substances instead of giving them the help that they need to get better.
And you're a proud alum of the Buffalo Public School System and this fine institution behind us.
Yes, I am a City Honor Centaur, proud of loveness from here.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that we come back to City Honors, but we come back to the neighborhood, because your story to get to where you are today, you understand the streets, you understand the individuals who have had drug issues.
City Honors kind of served as a respite for me because it was like a safe haven. I didn't know how well or how much I valued this education until after I left. But my wife always tells me the way that I grew up is not normal. We grew up in a household where my mother worked hard, but my mother wasn't there a lot because she had to make sure she had food on the table. So the community kind of raised us. Also, there was a lot of gang activity, a lot of drug activity in our neighborhood, and I saw that every day, and I became accustomed to it. You get desensitized to it. It wasn't the right way to grow up, but when I came here, it gave me a safe haven to take my mind off of everything and to help me focus on my education.
So some people would probably look and say, okay, you're a judge, you've gone through all that, you beat the odds. You beat the odds, but you understand what it's like for individuals to succumb to some type of drug at one point or another.
Definitely. I am an addict. There's no such thing as a former addict. I mean, God bless me, I've been clean for 20 years, but you never say that you're a former addict because you can't let this thing think you got the best of it. Because one thing would it do, it'll come back and hit you like a sledgehammer the minute you think you're done with it.
The crack problem of the 80s, which really attacked and ravaged the inner city. But really, when you're talking about addiction, white, black, it's all the same, isn't it?
It is all the same. And I always say this, you know, maybe in the 60s and 70s when our soldiers came home from a war, we made a huge mistake when we just threw them aside. In the 80s and 90s when we locked people up, huge mistake. But I think we learned from the mistakes of our past, and now that when people are succumbing to the opioid addiction, we learn from those 30 years of mistakes to make sure that you get people the help that they need, because you cannot lock up an addiction.
We went from just say no to the war on drugs. Where are we now?
Now we're trying to help people. It's a medical issue.
So when these young people come to court and they come before you, you have a little bit of empathy.
Yes. The reason why I try to, as I like to say, pull the curtain off the wizard and let them know that there's nothing great and powerful about me is that I want to know the only difference between me and them is time. All they need is clean time.
So bring your good times and your laughter too. We gon' celebrate and party with you. Come on out.
It's a celebration here on commUNITY. Just ahead, meet the smooth Western New Yorker bringing the funk with Kool and the Gang.
Sheila E's got nothing on you.
Got that right.
All right, and you know, music is always important in the church, and this week, it's also something to celebrate.
Celebrate, because we're talking a little bit about Kool and the Gang. One of the lead singers with Kool and the Gang is from Western New York, and he has quite a story.
There's a party going on right here. A celebration to last throughout the years.
Meet Sean McQuiller. He's from Lackawanna. So how did he become a part of Kool and the Gang?
Celebrate and party with you.
Met them over in Singapore, opening act, cover band from Buffalo, traffic jam. Right place at the right time. They saw me, thought maybe they could use me, and one thing led to another, and here I am, close to 25 years later.
He's a lead vocalist, background vocalist, and he plays guitar with a group that has been around 50 years.
I still find myself sometimes I'm on stage and I can look at them and still with disbelief. or see a playback of a video and just see the guys that I've admired for so many years and to know I'm in one of the greatest bands in the history of music. It's pretty amazing.
McCuller started in music as a child. That's right, this little boy from the Steel City.
It was so many singers and musicians in Lackawanna. You know, it just started with my brother. My brother's name is Darius. He played bass, and you know how it is, big brother. I wanted to be like him, so I started playing. My second oldest brother, Jamie, he's a singer. Once I got into my upper teens, 17, 18, 19, that's when I started going from Lackawanna to Buffalo, because I just wanted to mingle and meet more musicians and singers, and that's how I started getting into more bands. Up and down Broadway and Fillmore, Club Burgoyne, down on Genesee, Club Etc., out in Lackawanna at the Friendship House.
He's a member of the Buffalo Music Hall of Fame.
To know I'm in there with people like Joey Diggs, who got in a few years ago, Joe Public, Lance Diamond, and so many others, it's an honor.
And he admires local musicians.
I love to go out and listen to Will Houghton. I love him on saxophone. He's done some work with me before. I love him. I like DP, Daniel Powell. He plays drums. He's out working with Najee, along as Hot Rod on keyboards. He does his thing as well. Big fan of Van Taylor. I worked with Van Taylor for many years.
He believes in supporting and helping the next generation of singers, and that includes his own children.
My son, he raps, he produces music. He's always writing music. He put a CD out last year. The title of his CD was called It's My Time.
His daughter, Nelle.
I got the single Body that I released a few months ago.
Your hustle is pretty amazing, you know. You're trying to make it happen, and in this game, you got to keep digging, keep grinding.
Right now, I'm just in the process of finishing my project, Ecstasy, that will be released the end of October, early November.
Okay. Well, like always, keep me and Mom updated on everything that's going on. Sounds real good. Proud of you.
Sean sings a little at home with his wife, Gwen Reed McQuiller.
Don't you know that you're so fine? It's time to come together.
Kool and the Gang performs about 100 shows a year around the world.
It's amazing to know I come from a small city like this and find myself where I'm at today with the group that I'm working for. It's pretty amazing.
What was it like to come home and perform at the Seneca Niagara Casino in front of your hometown?
Oh, that was amazing, you know, just to be out there and hear all the people, you know, just to give a shout out to my hometown and hear that. That was a great feeling right there.
And there's another member of the group from Buffalo, keyboardist Curtis Williams. So, what is McQuiller's favorite song to perform?
Ladies' Night is my favorite.
Sexy ladies, let me hear you scream. Oh, yes, it's ladies' night, and the feeling's right. Oh, yes, it's ladies' night. Oh, what?
How important is it that music is helping to revive the Queen City?
It's extremely important because you can express so much through the music. If you go back a few years, there just wasn't as many clubs that was interested in live entertainment like it used to be, but that's all changing now. You can find bands playing every weekend somewhere.
And he's around.
I tell people all the time, just call me. Don't think I'm always out of town, because I am home sometime. If you call me and I know something's going on, I love to be there and love to be a part of it.
That's what I'm talking about.
His dream is to help up-and-coming artists. He's part of a studio near Hamilton, Ontario.
It's called Jacasa Studios. What we're doing there is bringing young talent in, grooming them along the way, and also we have bigger plans with starting a label.
Buffalo's renaissance isn't only happening in downtown.
It began to revitalize this entire community. And I don't mean as far as just living, the attitudes of people.
How black churches are playing a pivotal role in the resurgence of city neighborhoods.
We're inside True Bethel Baptist Church now, and it's a facility that has served this community in many ways, as a grocery store, as a twin fair, and now, as you mentioned a little while ago, giving the bread of life.
Yeah, now it's giving the bread of life. It used to give Wonder Bread, and now it's giving the bread of life.
Pastor Pridgen, talk about how the Black church has been the foundation of communities and neighborhoods, especially here on the east side of Buffalo.
You know, historically, the Black church has had to do more than just do Sunday service. It has had to do social service and any other type of service that is needed in a community. On the east side of Buffalo, what is so unique about the Black church is that the Black church now is involved in everything from social services to building of businesses to building of houses, but it all boils down to the building of people. At the end of the day, all of the things that we do, which may be slightly different than a suburban or rural church, because the inner city Black church around the country is expected to meet the needs of people in many ways.
You know, we talk about what's old is new again, and the church really is the center of the community, just like the way this country was founded. And it's kind of getting back to the principles that this nation was founded upon.
Absolutely. If you look, regardless of whether it was the Black church or whether it was the German church, churches were built without parking lots. So when you see these larger structures that were built in the early 1900s, there's not a parking lot because people walk to the church. Sure. And so in our communities, although we have become more mobile, people still depend on the church. We have people who drive from as far away as Rochester, who lived in this neighborhood, who still feel that they need to return here where their roots were.
At Mount Olive Baptist Church, Pastor William Gillison can also attest to the importance of serving the community, especially its youngest members. That's why his church has created several programs and venues for young people, including a field behind the church.
The reason we put that sports field in is because I'm riding down the street one day and some kids were playing in the street. They're playing kickball or something like that, okay? And I'm saying to myself, this is so dangerous, okay, that these kids are doing this, okay? It's open to the community.
The Bible says, praise God, that
Gillison has commanded the pulpit at Mount Olive Baptist Church since 1981. He says people gravitate to the church because it's the one stable place in a community over time.
Much of what the church is doing and has done internally is not known by many who are outside of the church because we don't advertise what we do. We just do it.
Long before the phrase faith-based organizations was popular, Mount Olive started a development corporation. They are now rehabbing this building on Cambridge and East Gallivan, right in the community near the church.
But the building itself that we purchased used to be a drug house.
It will house 8 apartments.
But we have to wake up as a people, take responsibility, and begin to also not invest within ourselves, but invest in the generations yet to come.
Talk about what True Bethel has done just around your church.
You know, what we've done around the church is we took a community that when I first came into this building and bought this building at public auction, no one was interested in this building because there was nothing around it. There were brown fields, but when we bought this building and then opened up the subway and built the townhouses and built, you know, the houses around us, and now we're building another set of houses that will be home ownership. It began to revitalize this entire community. And I don't mean as far as just living, the attitudes of people.
Even as we're ministering to the young generation, that we're always respecting those who came before us.
When it comes to the Black church, especially in cities like Buffalo, on the east side, or even on the west side, necessary?
Oh, you know, it's very necessary. When you talk about people who, some who are struggling, who want to do better. You know, a lot of times when people think of the Black church, they think of all poor people sitting in church. Nothing can be further from the truth. We have people who come in here without we have to deal with stuff like not having a high school diploma, who then end up with a bachelor's degree and a master's degree, and they stay in their church and they begin to help other people. If it were not for the Black church being in the neighborhoods that they serve, I think we would see neighborhoods that sometimes did not see the improvements that are needed because that power of people being together, of people serving together, of people even voting together, but more importantly, helping their communities that they live in.
And neighborhoods is what helps a city to thrive.
You know, one of the unique things about Buffalo and the Black church, I've been asked to come to other cities and talk about the developments that have happened with so many of the Black churches through their CDCs. You know, it's not just True Bethel, Mount Olive, St. John, Mount Aaron. I can keep going on. There's a few more that are even online right now. This is unique. You do not go to most cities and see so many churches that are predominantly African American doing as much development. We were just in Rochester to talk to about 100 pastors. Not one development happening there. Now we're looking in the Niagara Falls area to do those things. You don't see it. Buffalo is unique.
And that's what community is all about.
That's what it's all about.
It is so great to see the work that folks here at True Bethel and Mount Olive are doing on the city's east side, because when neighborhoods thrive, the whole city and all of Western New York really thrives.
And that's what community is all about. We want to celebrate the good things that are happening in Western New York, and that's why we want to hear from you.
Reach out to us at WGRZ.com. Thanks for joining us.
And we hope to see you on the next edition of Community.